another episode of Real Talk. As always, I'm joined by Eric Stewart, our CEO, and Robert Garcia, Director of Sales and Operations, on this pretty chilly morning. Woke up earlier this week; it was like 30s. I was like, "What's going on?" But I guess welcome to Maryland weather, where fall only lasts about 24 hours, and then we hit straight winter. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing today?
Pretty well.
Doing good,
Thank you.
thank you.
Awesome. So today we're going to talk about some fun stuff. We're going to talk about one of the two important parties in the sale or purchase of a home. This is the agent and the broker. We're going to talk about what the broker does. We'll talk about it both from a agent perspective when it comes to picking a broker, and then also from a client perspective, why you should maybe ask some questions about who that person's broker is, and even think about who you're about to get in business with. And then we're also going to talk about the agent. The agent plays a key part in all of this. We've said this many times in this broadcast that the agent wears many hats. Some hats they sign up for, some hats they don't sign up for. But hey, they still wear it. So it's part of the job description. But before we get into any of that, I wanted to let you know that Real Talk is brought to you by the Eric Stewart Group of Long and Foster. We're here to help you navigate today's crazy real estate world. We will be discussing buying, selling, and everything in between. This show is not just for consumers. It's also for fellow real estate agents who are looking to grow or manage this shifting market. So let's jump into the one of the biggest pieces in any of this, and we'll kind of work a little backwards on this. Let's talk about the broker. Eric, I know that you are a associate broker, correct? With Long and Foster. Can you help us understand what does that mean, and what is the role of the broker in the real estate transaction?
Well, Amir, think of the broker, whether it's in stocks or bond or whatever, where there's a broker who's authorized to oversee the trading under their umbrella. In the state of Maryland, in the state of Virginia, in the District of Columbia, rather, you've authorities essentially who are in charge authority of the real estate commission in that local. For a real estate agent with a company, there's a guy who oversees all of the real estate agents. In Long and Foster, it happens to be Nick Dambrone, and also answers to all state or District of Columbia and the commissions in those locations responsible ultimately to oversee and perform according to the National Code of Ethics, which is to treat the public like your realtors with respect, honesty. So there's got to be one person as an associate broker. It means I've completed requirements so that I could be my own company and be out there under my brokerage name and partner essentially to work within the law. Nick is my broker, but then there are who are in the real estate offices are in Virginia and Washington. There are actually brokers of the offices Nick's jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. And I'm an associate broker who falls under a broker in our office, for instance, is one of the brokers is my office. And Marge Rosner is the Northwest DC that my license hangs with. Rachel Foster, who is the broker of my license hangs there, as does all of my Stewart group. Hopefully that explains that.
It does. Eric, I think your sound's a little bit broken here and there, so maybe I want to look into that. Maybe potentially unplugging and plugging in your mic. Now, we love technology, it helps us, but gosh, does it kick our butt sometimes, but that's okay. Robert, can you help us understand what can we do? Like, why does it matter as an agent, right? When you got your license, correct? You got your license and you were like, okay, now I need to affiliate myself with a broker because that's how we do business. What did you do and what were the important things you looked for when it was time to get to know the broker?
So that's a really good question. As a new agent, I'm sure so many of people that are probably watching or listening to us right now are probably thinking about it, or maybe unhappy with their current broker. But to me, it was a solid track history of doing the business, being in the business, being a relevant company. Now, I will say this is prior to COVID, where you will probably measure the success of a company based on how many offices, locations, brick and mortar locations, and so on. After COVID, now we go into more of a digital world where a lot of things can happen in the metaverse, as you know, probably Facebook will call it, and some other brokers have come with different ideas. So I think now is probably a balance of having a location that it makes sense for wherever the agent wants to do business, and of course they have the technological support to being able to connect with many clients at the same time, to be able to provide items or value using technology like Zoom and other things like that, where you can connect with other people, digital signatures, and so on, so that your clients also don't have to disrupt their lives because now they have to travel to a real estate office to sign papers. So it's a combination of all of them, but I would say in essence, that's what we probably would look into it. I know that the commission, the split with their broker is always being one of those things that agents want to have the most of the money coming to them, but also keep in mind that if a broker gives you most of the money, there is also going to be minimum support to you as an agent, and especially if you're a brand new agent, you need a lot of support from the broker, and hopefully the brokerage has some kind of mentorship program that can also help you get up and running in this industry.
Awesome. So, I mean, my takeaway really from what you both are saying, and Eric, the way you were structuring it is that, there is this top person with Nick D'Ambrosio from on our side on Long and Foster, who essentially is responsible for all of our deals, and then you have the brokers that are within. So it's also important that the person you're working with, like for example, Eric, you just mentioned you're an associate broker, which means that you have put in the time, effort, the energy, the selling and the education and so on and so forth to become your own brokerage if you want to become your own brokerage if you want to. So that is also important for everyone to hear, because when you're selecting an agent, which we'll get to later, understanding when somebody has that badge, it's not just, oh, it's just another acronym at the end of the name. It's something they've put a lot of time, effort, and energy into to be able to get to that point. So what we can all agree on is it's a team effort when it comes to buying or selling a home between the agent and the broker. And how that team works is going to be very important, because if there's a bad relationship with that team, where that team is not communicating properly, it will show. It will show in the experiences that you will have as a consumer. So, Eric, for you, what are some important things that you would suggest a consumer, from a consumer side now, what would you suggest a consumer kind of ask or maybe think about when it comes to picking the agent, when they really are picking the broker that the agent works with as well?
First of all, can you?
We can. It still sounds a little bit broken up.
Okay. You hear this better?
It's a little bit better. It still sounds a little broken up. Maybe what we can do, Eric, is have you switch your mic. Robert, if you want to take that, I can help Eric kind of just answer that question. I'm happy to help Eric.
Okay. Testing 1, 2. Yeah.
That's a lot better.
Okay.
Let
me jump into the question you've asked, but consumer side, just to tag on something Robert shared, agent gets 100% of the every realtor gets 100% of the commission to understand. They choose that and back to the broker, meaning decide that the broker is adding value value to a host of resources, quality of you value, then you're going to trade a service you might have brought in to the broker, those different kinds of services, oversight, etc. You know, you have to think about it, and I like what Warren Buffett says. I quote: "This is what you pay, but the value is what you get. Is real getting." And we can be short-sighted, especially if things are tight relationship. I've really enjoyed being a part of the last 9 years, and I share Long and Foster because of the exemplary oversight and quality of team members that are in my office, but in all the other offices. So that's the trade-off. The consumer you want to hire, and we're talking. Correct.
Sorry, Eric, you're kind of
So
breaking up again. I don't know what happened. Maybe you just want to go back into the settings and change your audio settings into the audio input. Maybe change it to your C922 Pro Stream webcam. That should give you a better mic. Maybe
Okay.
Robert, while Eric is doing that, maybe you can just kind of help us as a consumer when it comes to picking a broker or choosing the agent who you work with. What would you look into? You know, how would you address that? And I think Eric, you were about to mention something about commission, correct?
choose a broker.
I think
Are we good now?
we're still. Maybe sounds a little broke. It sounds a little broken. Maybe you want to change your Wi-Fi. I don't know which one you're on.
Okay. Robert, I'll let you answer this question. Okay.
Awesome.
So there's many aspects on choosing a broker when you're going to be working with. I mean, you know, how much it's going to cost me. It's not necessarily should be the main goal of choosing a broker, but also you got to look in, you know, the different aspects. For example, does this broker, you know, has a luxury department? Does this broker has, what about the marketing department of this broker? What about, you know, how many agents this broker has that are full-time versus part-time? How many offices this broker has, and what kind of a national network they have access into, like a relocation area and so on. So there's so many aspects that really come to being to choosing the right broker, because at the end of the day, your buyer may as well come from the same neighborhood where the house is located, as well as it can come from relocating from Germany to in any part of the United States. So it really matters a lot about what the broker is. And of course, a good full service brokerage, it also has a cost, but it has a value at the same time.
Gotcha. So I mean, it really is important, and I'll show you guys some stats here with Long and Foster that we have, we associate with and do a lot of business with. But one thing that Robert mentioned is, as both an agent and as a consumer, the people you work with really do matter. I mean, who you work with matters. That's something that we can all agree on. These numbers you're looking at are mid-year numbers, so they were ending about June of this year. But within our brokerage, I mean, we have a real estate company, a mortgage company, a settlement company, an insurance company, a moving company. We have Eric back. Awesome. So we have all of these within our brokers, which makes it a one-stop shop for everything you want to do. You don't have to go outside of our brokerage to work with this or work with that person. Or now, if you have your own people, great. But when you're looking at an agent, the team that's behind them is going to really matter. And in this case, I think we just lost Robert. All right, we're having a fun time playing some games with technology today. Love it. We're keeping everybody on their toes. I like that. But as I was saying is, and what we're looking at here, Eric, is like we have this all-encompassing, like everything is in one place under Long and Foster. So when you work with us, when you choose the Eric Stewart Group to work with, it's not just what we have, it's the power of Long and Foster that enables us to do all the things we do, and then everything we build in within ourselves as well. So we can, the last things we have, Eric, and I think this is something that you really do preach on, the ethics, humility, and the confidence as well, that we have in the broker as far as an agent goes and a consumer. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, because I know that you've built this team around those things, being ethical, humility, and being able to portray that confidence to our consumers so that they know they're taken care of.
Hope that I can be here a little bit better now. Chuck. A little better?
Yes, we can hear you a little bit better now. Awesome.
So let's just take an recently that I put on the market, $88,000. This is a put up for sale. We generated 5, and if you can imagine the wire in terms of communication, not just between real estate agents who had written offers, the fiduciary responsibility that the seller of that property and interests ahead of any of my. So in this situation, we ended up getting 5. They escalated up to about $1 million. This is just two weeks ago. So just the climate that we're in now, where rates are still a bit higher, and this is not the spring market. We're not talking about April in a multiple contract scenario. Out is that the tension right now, interestingly, still as anxious as, even though the market has cooled down some. Why? Because there's, and as a result, a nice house and to it, and we're seeing prices still go higher. A couple weeks we've sold above asking price. So, but here we go. We get an offer. Essentially, these 5 offers compete with one going a little bit higher than that on an escalation clause. Simply means kind of like an escalate, makes its way up, price escalates against one offer against the other that went higher than $1.5 million, but the seller's $0.5 million offer. Okay, so I'm representing the seller, representing the buyer, although I'm looking at the buyer ethically and honestly through the chance here to make the commission income that agents generate. I have listing commission plus the commission that the agent representing a buyer, or in this case, an agent. I'm not working for the buyer, but I'm facilitating their right to their opportunity to write. They're a huge income selling that house. This price range of $1 million, agents who are watching, $1.5 million, and that you would get on listing commissions. It's a really great. But I look out for my client first. We are in the process of ratifying the offer. The seller, one seller had signed and was reading the documentation prior to exit. At that point in time, the broker who had written an offer, who was with a different broker, that agent wrote an offer. 1.5 came back and said, thereby $1,600,000 for that property, with no dropped a bazooka bomb on the that we now had an offer in front of us, $688,000, didn't require any of the to that number. So I called my client, can't beat this. This is an incredible bomb and true best interest. So commission-wise, what you're going to pay is really going to be what you're going to, the care, guidance of how things are going to be structured. In this case, we offers and followed that deadline. And another offer comes in. It wasn't the better. It's the right thing. It's obviously the best thing for my conscience too, right? Still, You got four other people who thought they were about to get it, who all did. And those agents need, and so some of the companies out there, mission or whatnot, they don't have time. They're not going to do people.
Right.
They're not going to be as, they're not bringing enough money in to be able to provide what sometimes people say, hey, more, we do more, or we charge less. You can't do both. You just can't afford it. It tickles the ears and it's not real. So the commission is as much is handled and the client as well as how we handle communicating with the other agents and caring for them through that they might have. Hope that helps.
It does. I mean, I think it definitely gives us the idea of the team effort that goes into both sides of what you just explained. And one of the main things we've always said and talked about is prices what you pay, but value is what you get, right? We talked about discount brokers, which then lead to discount agents. And this is one of the reasons why I really wanted to talk about this, is because in a shifting market, you know, everyone's going to be like, oh, I'll give this back, or we can do this, or we can do that. But understanding that if someone's willing to cut what they've worked hard for, they're going to just cut corners in other ways when it comes to dealing with you or dealing with other people. And like you mentioned, like, you know, how we handle situations and how we do certain things, it does make a huge difference. And that's one of the main reasons why I think we should all, everybody as a consumer, or even as a, you know, an agent, you should consider and really dig into where you are going. Who is it that you're going to be working with? Because if that company or that broker doesn't have a good name or a good brand or doesn't have a good history in what they've done, you're going to be hurt by affiliation. And it's really, really hard in such a competitive market and in such a competitive industry to be the winner and to be that person who's going to get the listing or be able to work with the buyer. And one of the things that, you know, we offer as well within Long and Foster, and I don't know if this is something either one of you had mentioned, is we actually have an internally, we have listings that come and go, meaning there are email lists that we get potentially from other offices that, hey, this person has this, or this person is potentially looking for, an agent in the office is looking for a house that fits this criteria. So again, when you work within a brokerage that has great communication, it will make a world of difference when it comes to buying, selling, and working with that brokerage. So I want to move on to the next topic. And just before we do that, you guys will see there are these QR codes. You can take out your phone, open your camera, and just hold it over that QR code. There will be a link that will pop up. That link will lead you directly into our two award-winning guides, our Market Ready Guide and our Right Sizing Guide. For this specific topic, when we're going to talk about the agent, there is actually a section within our Market Ready Guide that talks about the 10 questions you should ask a realtor before you hire one. We're telling you as the industry experts, these are the questions you should be asking us and everybody else when it comes to hiring them to sell your home fast and for top dollar. So now let's transition. Robert, we've talked about the brokerage. Let's now transition to the agent. Why is the role, and I know this can get long, so maybe give us the kind of that, you know, high level view. Why is the agent so important in getting your home sold or by helping you purchase a home, where you could potentially do it at a for sale by owner, or you could go around and look certain things up and make calls yourself? Why is an agent so important to a transaction when it comes to buying or selling a home?
That's actually a really good question. A lot of people think that selling a house is just a matter of putting a for sale sign and just open the doors on a Saturday or Sunday and let people come in and the house will sell by itself. And that's why so many for sale by owners think that there's no value in hiring a realtor, but it's quite the opposite. There is some statistics out there. I don't know the real percentage right now, but I know it's more than 50% that it talks about. Many people that try to sell their home as a homeowner will never try it again because it's just really a lot of work to have to do, from the preparation of the property all the way to the marketing to the day of the going to the settlement. So I think what a what happens in this case is a real estate agent has a set of skills that actually allow them to properly market a property, to have access to networks, to present the property, to do staging, to do photography at the right time of the day, the year, and so on. So there's so many things that have to take place in order for this to work out. So many people just think it's just, I'm just going to do it by myself and that's it. And it doesn't happen like that. Now, I will have to also make an emphasis here that there are also many realtors that think that houses will sell with the 4 Ps that we talk at the Eric Stewart Group. Put the sign on the front, put the lockbox over there, print the brochures, and then go in the backyard and pray. You need more than praying right now, my
That's
friends,
new.
to sell houses.
That's new. The go in the backyard to pray. That's a new one.
that's you need more than that right now. I'll give you an example. We have a house in Silver Spring that it's a beautiful house. It hasn't really gotten the attention. It has some challenges because of the location. It's on a busy road. Not everybody likes that road, but right now we have another agent that he calls me and says, hey, do you think that the seller will consider owner financing for a portion of it? Because my client has a great income but does not want to use all his savings. And my first question to the other agents is, have you done something like this before? And these agents are from a big discount broker, right? I'm not going to say any name. But she said, no, I never done this, and I have to make a lot of phone calls, and it doesn't seem like anybody here in my office has done something like this before, but that's the only way this client is willing to buy this property with me. So immediately you can tell right there that the client now knows more than the agent when it comes to this particular situation. Now the agent's just struggling. She's like, have you done something like this before? And I'm like, yeah, I've done it before. I have experience in this. That's a huge difference with something like that. And of course, I called my client, this seller, said, hey, this is what's it may happen with this potential buyer. Are you open to the idea? We had a lot of conversations, and they are open to the idea to do a seller financing. Just to explain more about seller financing, this buyer will still go and borrow money from a bank, and the bank is probably going to give him 80% of the total value, whatever value will be that we will negotiate on the contract. The buyer is going to come up with 10% down. Now he's looking for the seller to finance that other 10% so they can avoid to pay private mortgage insurance and maybe get it at a lower rate with the seller, that 10% that can be refi in a couple of years. And so the seller will continue to make money, although the seller felt like I had to take some price adjustments. They'll continue to make money invested in these at a 6%, 7%. I don't know what rate is going to be. So right there, that's an example why who you hire, who represents you on buying and selling a house, it matters. And when it comes to putting things together, I think we at the Eric Stewart Group are very good at being creative and putting deals together.
So one thing I'll mention is, and this is something, Eric, you mentioned a couple shows ago, where we were talking about the agent actually, that you had a settlement, or you were representing a seller and the buyers were starting to kind of just randomly throw numbers at the settlement table and other places. Well, it's going to cost us this much to fix this or that. And you were actually the one leading the conversation to get the buyers to realize that you guys are you're just asking for things. We've gone through these inspections.
Asking for to make them feel better.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So
and qualified, help the buyer. I asked, tell me why is it you think you deserve that? Understand and walk them through saying no, doing so in a gracious way, which is that's not my responsibility. And I said no to their agent, and their agent said choice the buyer had made. So Amir, your point, I took it over, but here you go.
Yeah, I mean, you took that lead, right? Like you took the lead in that conversation. You made them come to it's like, I'm sorry that you feel that way. I felt the same way, but what I found is this isn't going to work the way you think it is.
Right.
So this is why it's so important with, again, like the people you work with, who you work with matters, which leads us to the conversation of experience. If you have an inexperienced agent who doesn't know how to lead that conversation or help them understand why, whatever side of the table you're on, like, this is the reality of what we do. This is the reality of, you don't go to the dentist and tell them, no, you don't pull this one, pull the other one. You don't go to the mechanic and go, hey, no, it's not the oil change. I'm telling you, the back seat is like, understand when you hire an agent, they are experts in what they do. They're there for a reason. With us, I mean, we've been in business for so long, and again, that associate brokerage badge is not just something at the end of a name. It's something you've worked hard for, and that's there. So let's take that experience. We've talked about the communication. Let's kind of go into why a hyper local agent is so important. Meaning, why is it so important when you're trying to sell a house in, let's say, Potomac, why you should really consider someone who who grew up in Potomac, who lives in Potomac, who has done a lot of business in Potomac, versus just hiring Uncle Joe, who has no idea how to sell anything in the area that you're looking to sell, but they live in Frederick. So there is a huge difference in why hyperlocal is so important. So Eric, maybe you want to take us through that, and help us understand why it's so important to hire and interview the local agent versus trying to just get, again, the value. Price is what you pay, value is what you get.
A hyper local agent, having been in the ground war, so to speak, along that line, in that some of the land, they understand the location, shopping, etc., in that location. I tell you, I don't think the hyper local critical, okay, as someone who has the balance of an under and has the experience, available tools to market effect. So we will often pair to a location where you may not see a lot of ours, and that's not a problem for us at all on the local real estate market. We do schools, and so we represent, and so we become hyper local operation. What's most important in a real estate agency, that comprehensive care from the beginning to the end, of preparing the house to the point of clearing, and that requires them. And frankly, it's something to do, but only when they have a this, because there are approximately 100 beginning to the end. I think it's, hopefully I'm presenting this balance. You want to have the local real estate economy. You also want to have the skill, the great marketing and negotiating at your property. So those two things. You hire a hyper local agent who does the sign up with a lockbox on the door, puts it in the computer, then hyper local, and they know the neighborhood, but they just don't the skills or the capability of somebody who's really got the system, somebody who's really system organized, but doesn't understand the local, both sides of it. Okay.
Gotcha. So again, and part of what you're mentioning, Eric, and what you just said is that being kind of in that, like, that ground war, right? Like you know that area. So important to know where certain parts are, because you could go 10 minutes down the road where we are and prices could dramatically shift. So understanding where you are, who you work with matters. We've said this plenty of time. Hyperlocal will make a huge difference. And that's why with us, we have agents that are not just focused on Potomac or Northwest DC or this. Like, we have agents spread out throughout all of Maryland, Virginia, and DC that are hyper local agents, that most of them live in those areas. And most of them have spent years and years in those areas and have seen the shifting of the market and can properly predict what is going to happen when X, Y, and Z happens. What's going to happen when this price goes down, or how do I properly price a house in Potomac that might be a little bit older, than a new build in Germantown, right? Like these are worlds of differences. Robert, from your perspective, why, again, and we heard what Eric's mentioned, so maybe tell us a little bit more why you think, as someone, and again, in your position, you are overseeing the sales of our team. You're seeing over the sales. So when the lead comes in, you're placing it. What tactics do you use to ensure that the consumers that reach out to us are getting that hyper local agent?
Yeah, so one of the things is, as we receive someone that submits a request to thinking about selling, we go through a series of questions. Not that we wanted to be nosy about their lives, but it's more about for us to understand their timing, their motivation, of course, and there's always a financial aspect involved in buying and selling real estate. And based on that, then we will kind of like match. I'm the matchmaker of the Eric Stewart Group. Match this client with an agent here, just to make sure that they will really receive not only all the skills that every agent here at the group has, but also there's probably that additional kick in of like either this agent has sold homes in the same neighborhood, in the same area, zip code, or maybe the agent lives in that area and it's a little bit more familiar. Again, the hyper local is just kind of like the cherry on top, but there's other things that are core fundamentals of these people, agents, working within the Eric Stewart Group and knowing how to sell real estate. I guarantee you, we open an Eric Stewart Group in Florida, we'll be very successful. We'll sell over there. It doesn't matter where we are, or we go to Alaska, we'll do the same thing. But of course, adding that additional kicking into knowing the area, it also gives sometimes clients that sense of like, I am hiring the right person or the right team and so on. So that's kind of what we do here when we have people to call us. I will hate just to have a client just have a junior agent, and when they perhaps don't have that experience at that level. And we go through levels here internally at the Eric Stewart Group with our agents. So rest assured that if we always going to send you the person that is the most professional. Now, there are designations that some agents have within the Eric Stewart Group that will also allow them to understand the clients better and position and have a plan of action for the clients and so on, like senior real estate specialist, SRES. So that's an addition and designation for some of our agents, so that they can also help some of our senior clients go through the process, because it's not the same to help someone that has been in the house 10 years versus someone that has been in the house for 30 years. It's a whole different strategy and the preparation for the house to go on the market.
That's Eric, you're still on mute because the grass cutters outside. There we go.
Got me there. Okay. So we're putting a home on the market in Virginia. It is right near Spout Run to Washington, D.C. This property, the broker, but the broker did not recognize full value considerations in pricing the home. And with the seller, I came in to surprise you that the agent that they had hired originally local, but didn't take into consideration. Here are those 4 items. Number one, actually, you can see Spout Run. For those who don't know what Spout Run is, it's a Washington Parkway that heads into South Arlington. So it's traffic. You've got a certain degree of noise that has the world. Spout Run is down below the property. You can hear it, and you're going to even see the trees. A busy location, a value discount to it, and that was not factored into the original case. It's probably a 3 or 4% offer list price for that home, simply because just prefer to have privacy. They prefer to have hear anybody, not see anybody, right? That's a choice, an easier choice. Incentive to consider the compromise of taking noise, maybe some visual element by, is to give them some financial case. Let's say it's $50,000. Additionally, the lot, which means that it's like a that. Think of a flag pole that goes up. So a flag lot means that you've got a main street where all the other homes are on. This has a long driveway that goes to the back and then sits on their lot at property, faces the back of somebody else's home. So that also has a consideration adjustment in property value. What else? It's actually got consistently because it's on an airplane path for National Airport, Reagan National Station. And so, and then is that the driveway goes from the to the front door. So instead of up to the front door, which is the most probably will drop off the street on the flagpole houses and drive down a hill. All four of those play into, again, hiring the broker who understands dress, understand the values that are objections. We can't do anything about those to do about it, but also look at all the benefit property, the schools in that location, etc. You're really having you in this case. I don't live in that neighborhood, no, because of the experience, and my agents know that you have to factor certain elements and tie that into your decision in consideration of all the positive. And guess what? An appraiser, one of those four in appraising the property. They just look at it like okay, this has this other houses, and so the appraisal is going to times on a property like that than the actual sale price it has. So finding an agent to express those and guide you through that's critical.
Yeah, and then one thing you just mentioned is, and something that I didn't even think of to even bring up or question or say is like, if you're also not a hyper local agent when it comes to the appraisal side, like, yes, we've seen things different from past couple of years, so on and so forth. But again, as a shifting market, you're going to see appraisals. And if the agent is not well versed in the area, is not boots on the ground, doesn't know the neighborhoods or doesn't know the streets even that well, and the history of the neighborhood or the streets or the homes that have sold in that area, there is nothing they can do because an appraiser is going to give their 2 cents, the humble 2 cents, and what they think the property is worth. And a lot of times, like we are able to, we do go in and say, well, look at, if it comes under, like, look at these things, look at these ones that are recently sold. This one had this. So it's really important to understand where you are trying to sell. And if you're a seller trying to sell a home again in Potomac, but are bringing an agent that doesn't really live in the area or know the area that well, you could be leaving thousands of dollars on the table that you might not even know about. And how you market to those people.
Well, Amir, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry, I thought you were done.
Oh, no. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So if you property, if you're going to make sure that you get a couple of them for sale, because and just see naturally versus somebody. It's just sort of like a boilerplate. Here's what we're going to do. Glossy and nice looking. Have an agent who can defend the claim, the pricing to process this Spout Run property was dramatically by the listing agent. And so here's how we're going to, and I walk them through understanding it, and they of course would want more. Then if a buyer asks, well, why are you asking that? So when you're hiring, explain why they're listing the property. Make sure that you don't leave money behind. property in Kensington, which sold for $400,000 2 weeks ago. You know,
So, those are the important things, right? Like those are the the one thing I was going to add to what you're saying, Eric, is like the way you also market a property, it does vary based on where they are, right? Like we have different marketing tactics that if a property is priced at less than $1 million to $1.5 million, to $1.5 million to $2 million, like we have all of those things built out because we understand what sells in what areas, right? How you market a house in 20854 will be different how you market a 20832 Potomac and Olney. Different people looking for different things, different schools. I mean, there's so many factors that go into it that you as a real estate agent need to take into consideration, which is why, like you mentioned, we asked, interview multiple people. We'll say it when we're there too. And Eric, you've said it, Robert is, interview multiple people. Don't just interview us, interview the next 2-3 people. Pick the person you're willing to work with because this is a huge transaction, whether you're buying, selling, or doing both of it. This is buying or selling a home is the biggest transaction for most people in their lifetime. So, Robert, we've really talked about a lot of things here with hyperlocal, appraisals, so on and so forth. And you mentioned something that I want to kind of touch on again is when somebody submits a form on our website or calls us, when we ask the questions we ask, when are you looking to buy or sell? Where, like, what's your address? Where are you looking? Those are not meant to be intrusive questions. I know sometimes they may feel like, well, why do you need to know all this detail about me? It's really just to put you in touch with the right agent who knows the area you're looking to buy or sell in with. So as an agent yourself, because you also do that, as part of that, what are some things a new agent or an agent that's kind of stuck at a certain ceiling, what are some things they can do to be better at being and branding themselves as the hyper local agent in whatever area they're looking to grow in?
I mean, there are many tactics nowadays with social media, with some other things that you could definitely be doing that. I was actually reading something recently that it says that the biggest mistake many realtors make at the beginning is to go very wide and spread too thin versus go like laser focus, right? So I will just probably say, come up with the best strategy plan that you can on your own. Always seek the guidance and coaching from other people that have done it at a much higher scale and level so that they can get the proper feedback on the plan they have created. And then once you do it, just don't stop. Give it some, do it, go deep into it and give it some time to see it grow, because this is a business of consistency. It's a business of waiting, and many times in many cases. And once you add those two ingredients, then people really start seeing that you are not just out there for the short period of time that the real estate market might be good for, whether a buyer or seller. You're there really for the long run and so on. So that would be probably my first thing I will tell someone before anything they can do. And of course, always have a business plan, a marketing plan of action, so you can execute on those things. Otherwise, it's just going to be shooting in the darkness, and that's never proven to be a good strategy.
You mean just hoping and praying doesn't work? It's not a thing? You only do that with houses?
It does not work that way, my friend.
Eric, can you touch on, and you've done this really well in your career, from the fly swatter days, which we'll have to find a picture and post up on here one time. But can you kind of walk us through, in your perspective, and you've done a great job of this with farming. So maybe kind of just walk us through how an agent, whether they've hit a ceiling or they're just starting, how they can also have the same success that you've had within your farm area. You're still on mute, I believe, Eric.
Sorry about that. There's a grass cut, so just trying to protect you. The farming, just like if you had a little garden and you go soil, open up the soil, you put lime or whatever to get the pH balance right. Seeds, you water the seeds, you tend seeds, you pick the fruit. Ultimately, the same thing in real estate. So back in 1987, a few neighborhoods, essentially 100 homes, and no more than that. Real estate agent taking 30%, because to take on a farm where somebody else is a very difficult process, and so to find an area is knock on the doors, get out in the afternoon, and go until dusk, or even a little bit become known in that area. Knock on doors, allow you. And what's nice about this, you'll be sure everybody gets a cut. Amir threw out the example of a fly one year where we ordered waters that had a hole in the middle of them. So you hand the fly swatter to somebody at their front door water, they're like, a fly swatter? And there's a hole in the middle of the fly swatter? And then the line was, yes, but when it comes time to sell, don't. Okay? Now that fly shtick and humor of it, front door. Somebody then took that in. Look at this. Oh yeah, that's the realtor's name. And I still occasionally go into the pantry or into the, and there's a yardstick that I handed out one there. So the point is that at a very inexpensive cost, water, and then your time, but it doesn't cost you cash out of your pockets. And this way you can actually generate return on investment in it that you really want to sell homes in. So it's good to do that. It's also really quite outdoor slams in your face. You got to choose and go on to the next house, because it has really nothing to do with you. It has everything. If you show up and you say hi, you're just anyway. Just a thought you might want to consider.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give the fly a chance. Somebody's got to give the fly a chance. And it's also it's funny because you, with doing certain things like that, you kind of get to, you become known for something, right? Like you kind of break down the walls that people tend to put up. I mean, I can tell you now, if somebody knocked on my door, I'd be like, what is happening? Why are they here? But it's also intriguing. Like, what are they looking for? What are they looking to give away? What do they think? And like you said, if you get a few doors slammed in your face, it's nothing about you. It's just a tough day. We all have those days. Well, with that information, with all of what we just talked about, I do want to bring us back to this. We do have everything we talk about, whether we've talked about it in the past or we're going to talk about it in the future, really comes from our guides. These are guides that Eric has taken the time and effort. We update them. We go through these, and this is information that you can use whatever stage you're in, whether you are just getting ready to, hey, we're in this home, we're going to outgrow our house. Well, what are some things, where can we put $1 in to get 2 back? All the information, the questions you should ask a realtor, everything you are looking for is in these guides. If you're looking to right size, right, you're kind of are getting children out the house, grandkids have grown, we're ready to make some changes. Like Robert mentioned, you've been living in that house for 40, 50 years. That process is very different than what I would go through as someone who just bought a house in 2020, and the process that you might go through there. So all of this and much, much more, our preferred vendor guide, got people that we have, vendors that we have vetted locally, that we actually update, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Garcia, we update that on a monthly basis. Like, we're constantly going through that. We have a buyer's guide, as this guide. We have tons of guides that has been written free of charge. You can go online, go to ericsturgroup.com, call us at 800-900-9104, or just scan that code there, and under resources, you will find all of the information you are looking for that we've talked about, that we have, discussed in the past, or we'll bring up in the future. And as always, if you have any specific questions, you can just call us at that 800-900-9104 number and just ask. One of our team members, you might even hear from, Robert, he's managing those. You might hear from Eric. You can email us at any time. All of this to say is that we are here for you in the process, whether you are an agent, whether you're looking to buy, whether you're looking to sell, whether you're looking to do all of it, whether you're an agent looking to buy or sell, whatever it is, we are here for you. The purpose of this show, as we always mention, is to bring you insight into this crazy, fun real estate world that we're all in, and the shifting market that we all love and maybe not love at times. With that, I want to thank you both, gentlemen, for taking the time. I want to thank everyone who joined us. With, we had some, we lost some people at one point. We came back. Thank you for bearing with us. It's technology, it's internet connections, fortunately out of our control. But thank you again, gentlemen. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And again, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to call us at 800-900-9104 or visit us at ericsturgroup.com. Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.